In African spirituality, the connection between the living and the ancestors is not just symbolic, it is deeply real and powerful. The ancestors are revered not as distant figures from the past, but as active participants in the present, offering wisdom, guidance, and protection. They are seen as the intermediaries between the physical and spiritual realms, shaping the lives of their descendants, ensuring prosperity, and maintaining balance within the community. Across various African cultures, ancestor worship is the foundation of spiritual life. It's a belief system that unites families, communities, and entire societies. The living do not simply remember the dead, they communicate with them, seek their guidance, and make offerings to ensure their continued favor. The ancestors are considered to be intimately involved in the daily affairs of their descendants, influencing decisions, births, marriages, and even matters of health and well-being. The importance of ancestors is seen in the structure of African spiritual practices, which revolve around the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. In many traditions, the spiritual energy of the ancestors is believed to be a force that sustains the living. Their protection is invoked during rituals, and their presence is honored in ceremonies, festivals, and prayers. In return, the living offer food, drink, and sacrifices as tokens of respect and love for their deceased forebears. But the practice of ancestor worship is not merely a reflection of respect, it is about maintaining an unbroken bond that transcends time and space. The spiritual realm is ever-present, interwoven with the physical, and ancestors act as the bridge that keeps the living in constant communication with the divine forces that guide them. The question remains, however, how do these practices continue to evolve, and how do they remain relevant in today's modern world? In Igbo culture, the veneration of ancestors is fundamental to both spiritual and everyday life. The Igbo people hold a deep belief in the power and presence of their ancestors, often referring to them as Ndi Ichi, the revered ones. These ancestors are seen not as distant figures but as active participants in the lives of their descendants, offering protection, guidance, and blessings. Their spirits are believed to continue to live within the community, watching over their people and ensuring the continued well-being of the family and society. Central to Igbo ancestor worship are the family shrines, where rituals and offerings are made to honor the spirits of the deceased. These shrines are often simple, private places within the home or compound, where a symbolic altar is created with images, artifacts, and sacred objects that represent the ancestors. During special ceremonies or significant events, such as marriages, births, and deaths, family members gather to offer prayers, food, and libations, invoking the spirits of their forebears for blessings. One of the most important rituals in Igbo ancestral worship is the Gibo, a ceremony dedicated to the spirits of the ancestors. It involves offerings of yam, palm wine, and sometimes animals, presented to the spirits in gratitude and for their continued protection. During these ceremonies, Igbo people pray to the ancestors, asking for good health, prosperity, and success. The Festival of New Yam is also a major event in which the harvest is presented to the ancestors as thanks for their protection over the previous year's crops. The Igbo also practice divination to communicate with their ancestors and seek spiritual guidance. The Afa divination system is used by spiritual leaders known as dibia, diviners, to interpret messages from the gods and ancestors. Through the use of sacred objects, such as cowrie shells or kola nuts, the diviners receive insight into future events, personal matters, or the will of the ancestors, helping to guide decisions made by individuals or entire communities. This communication with the ancestors is not just limited to religious or ceremonial practices. In daily life, the spirits of the ancestors are invoked for guidance in resolving conflicts, making important decisions, or even in the pursuit of success. The living constantly maintain a connection with the spirits, not only out of respect but out of a belief that the guidance and support of the ancestors are crucial for the proper balance and harmony of life. But as modernity creeps into Igbo life, the question arises, how will these ancient practices evolve? How will the younger generation, increasingly influenced by globalization and Christianity, continue the sacred traditions of ancestral worship, and what role will it play in the lives of the next generation? The Yoruba people, one of the largest ethnic groups in West Africa, have a deeply spiritual connection with their ancestors. For the Yoruba, ancestors are revered as the guiding forces who shape both the present and the future. They believe that the spirits of the dead live on in the world of the living, serving as protectors and intermediaries between the divine and human realms. In Yoruba culture, the veneration of ancestors is central to religious and social life. This practice is most visible during festivals such as the Akan festival, dedicated to honoring the spirits of the deceased. The festival involves the performance of dances, songs, and sacrifices, where dancers, draped in ceremonial attire, embody the ancestors and connect with the spirit world. During the festival, offerings of food, drink, and symbolic objects are made to the spirits to seek their blessings and protection. Yoruba ancestor worship also revolves around sacred family shrines, where offerings are made regularly to honor the departed. These shrines are typically small altars set up within homes, decorated with images, sculptures, and symbols representing ancestors. It is common to make offerings such as palm wine, cooked yams, and goat meat to invoke the spirits of the ancestors, asking for guidance, good health, and success. In addition to the Akan festival, divination plays a major role in Yoruba ancestral practices. The practice of Ifa divination, one of the most important spiritual systems in Yoruba religion, is used to communicate with the ancestors. The Babalawos, spiritual leaders or priests of Ifa, use sacred tools, such as cowrie shells or palm nuts, to receive messages from ancestors and deities. These messages guide the living in matters of personal, family, and community importance. The Yoruba belief system is also closely tied to the concept of Oran, spiritual realm, where the ancestors dwell. Orunmila, the god of wisdom and divination, is believed to hold the keys to the ancestral knowledge that guides humanity. Ancestors are seen as part of this divine wisdom, and their role is not only to protect the living but also to ensure the continuation of tradition and values. Though the Yoruba practice of ancestor worship is rooted in traditional religion, it has evolved over time, influenced by Christianity, Islam, and other global religions. Yet, despite the presence of these external forces, the connection with ancestors remains strong. Many Yoruba continue to honor their ancestors alongside their modern religious practices, illustrating the adaptability and resilience of their spiritual beliefs. However, as the younger generation becomes more integrated into modern life, questions arise about the future of this practice. Will the bond between the living and their ancestors persist in an increasingly globalized world? The future of Yoruba ancestor worship depends on how it adapts to changing times while staying rooted in its rich spiritual heritage. The Akan people of West Africa, primarily located in present-day Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, have a deeply rooted tradition of ancestor worship, which plays a central role in their spiritual and social practices. The Akan believe that their ancestors, known as Abuzum, spirits, continue to exert influence over the living, offering protection, guidance, and blessings. These ancestors are honored through rituals, festivals, and prayers, which are essential for maintaining harmony and balance within the community. In Akan culture, the most significant ritual for ancestor veneration is the Dumso ceremony, a sacred event during which the spirits of the ancestors are called upon to offer guidance and blessings. This ceremony is often held in the home or community shrine, and involves offerings of food, drink, and other symbolic items. Drumming, dancing, and singing are key components of this ritual, as they help invoke the spirits and facilitate communication with the ancestors. The Akan people also believe in the soul's immortality, with the spirits of the deceased living on in the spiritual realm, watching over and interacting with the living. Ancestral worship is a communal activity that involves not only family members but also the larger village or town. Elders and spiritual leaders play a key role in ensuring that proper rituals are performed and that the spiritual needs of the community are met. Another important aspect of Akan ancestor worship is the use of ancestral stools. These stools are highly sacred objects, each representing a specific lineage or clan. The stools are believed to house the spirits of the ancestors and are treated with the utmost respect. They are used during ceremonies, and offerings are placed on them to honor the deceased and seek their blessings for the living. Despite the influence of Christianity and Islam on the Akan people, ancestral worship remains a vital practice, deeply intertwined with their cultural identity. The reverence for ancestors in Akan society ensures the continuation of spiritual traditions and strengthens the bond between the past, present, and future. As the world changes, the Akan continue to find ways to adapt their practices, keeping the wisdom of their ancestors alive in both traditional and modern forms. Ancestor worship in Africa is not limited to static rituals but is a living, vibrant practice that evolves with time. At the core of this spiritual connection are the rituals, prayers, and festivals that honor and communicate with the ancestors. Across various African cultures, these practices are central to maintaining harmony, seeking guidance, and ensuring prosperity for the community. Rituals play a critical role in ancestor worship. In many cultures, libations are offered to the ancestors in a ceremonial act of respect. Palm wine, water, and palm oil are commonly used in these offerings, accompanied by prayers asking for protection, blessings, and guidance. Drumming and singing are also integral to these ceremonies, creating a spiritual atmosphere that helps connect the physical and spiritual realms. For instance, in the Yoruba tradition, the Egungun festival features elaborate performances where dancers embody the spirits of ancestors, inviting them to return and bless the community. Prayers are a key component of these rituals, with offerings typically accompanied by requests for the ancestors' blessings on matters such as health, fertility, and successful harvests. Divination, particularly through Ifa, in Yoruba tradition, allows the living to communicate directly with the spirits, receiving guidance and prophecies about their lives. The priests and priestesses act as intermediaries between the physical world and the ancestors, interpreting divine messages for individuals and communities. The New Yam festival among the Igbo is another example of how ancestor worship is celebrated with rituals and feasts. It marks the beginning of the harvest season, and the first yam is presented to the ancestors in gratitude for a bountiful season. Similarly, the Dumso festival of the Akan people is a spiritual celebration that honors their forebears, ensuring their protection and well-being. These festivals are times for community bonding, where the living and the spirits are united in a shared celebration of life and legacy. These rituals, prayers, and festivals are not just for the living but serve to create a spiritual connection across generations. They ensure that the wisdom of ancestors is passed down and that the spiritual forces continue to shape the community. As the world modernizes, these practices remain relevant, adapting while maintaining their sacred purpose, to honor those who came before, and to ensure their legacy endures in the lives of the living. In the modern world, as African societies grapple with globalization, urbanization, and the spread of Christianity and Islam, ancestral worship remains a cornerstone of many African cultures. Despite the influence of these global religions, ancestral practices continue to be deeply woven into the fabric of daily life, offering spiritual guidance, communal unity, and a sense of continuity across generations. The relationship between the living and the dead is seen as timeless, transcending the boundaries of contemporary religious practices. In urban centers, where many young Africans are increasingly distanced from traditional customs, there has been a resurgence of interest in reconnecting with ancestral roots. Younger generations are returning to ancestral practices through cultural festivals, rituals, and community gatherings, seeking to restore a sense of identity and belonging in a rapidly changing world. Social media and technology have also played a role in this revival, with platforms facilitating discussions on the importance of ancestral worship and the need to preserve traditional beliefs. The role of ancestors in modern African life extends beyond the home. They are invoked in political and community decision-making, as their guidance is believed to ensure wise choices for the collective good. In some African countries, leaders and governments turn to traditional spiritual practices, including consultations with spiritual elders and diviners, before making important decisions. This connection to the ancestral realm helps ground contemporary leadership in the wisdom of the past. However, as the world becomes more interconnected, the practice of ancestor worship faces challenges. Some African societies are experiencing a decline in traditional rituals, especially among the youth, who may prioritize modern religious practices or secular lifestyles. Despite this, there is a growing movement among Africans, particularly in the diaspora, to reclaim and celebrate their ancestral heritage, ensuring that these practices continue to evolve while preserving their spiritual significance. Ancestor worship, though adapted to modern contexts, remains a powerful force in African spirituality. It binds communities to their past, strengthens cultural identity, and ensures that the voices of the ancestors continue to be heard across time. As Africa moves forward, the spiritual practices of honoring the ancestors will undoubtedly continue to evolve, ensuring that the wisdom of the past shapes the future. The practice of ancestor worship in African cultures is not merely a relic of the past, but a living, evolving spiritual tradition that continues to shape the lives of millions. For centuries, the bond between the living and their ancestors has been a central thread woven into the fabric of African spiritual and social life. The reverence for those who have passed serves as both a spiritual guide and a reminder of the values that have been passed down through generations. As Africa continues to evolve in a globalized world, the relevance of ancestral worship remains undeniable. It provides a deep sense of identity and continuity, offering individuals and communities a spiritual anchor amidst the changes of modern life. For many, honoring the ancestors is not only about preserving tradition, it is about sustaining a connection to the forces that have shaped their culture, beliefs, and social structures. The modern resurgence of interest in ancestral worship, particularly among the younger generation, highlights its enduring importance. In an era of rapid change, these practices serve as a reminder of the value of heritage, community, and the lessons learned from those who came before. While global religions and secularism continue to influence African societies, the role of ancestors as protectors, guides, and symbols of wisdom remains firmly rooted in African consciousness. Looking ahead, the challenge for African cultures will be finding ways to maintain this sacred bond while navigating the complexities of modern life. The future of ancestral worship will likely involve a fusion of tradition and innovation, ensuring that the essence of honoring the ancestors is preserved while adapting to contemporary realities. As technology and global influences shape African societies, ancestor worship may take on new forms, yet its spiritual core will remain intact. In the end, the worship of ancestors is not just about honoring the dead, it is about keeping the living connected to their roots, their culture, and their spiritual path. It is a timeless tradition that bridges the past, present, and future, ensuring that the wisdom of the ancestors continues to guide generations to come. The eternal bond between the living and the dead is a thread that remains unbroken, woven into the very heart of African spiritual life. The reverence for ancestors is a powerful and enduring part of African spiritual and cultural life. As we've explored, the rituals, prayers, and festivals dedicated to our forebears continue to bridge the gap between the living and the spiritual realm, offering guidance, protection, and wisdom for future generations. Ancestor worship is not just about honoring the past, it's about preserving cultural identity and connecting deeply with the forces that shape our lives today. If you found this exploration of African traditions insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Join us on this journey as we continue to uncover the rich, diverse spiritual practices that shape cultures around the world. Stay connected, stay curious, and let's continue learning together.